Millbrook Heating and Air Conditioning. Call in now on the Tom and Ellie DWITom.com hotline, 315-437-7644.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. How we doing? How we doing, everybody? How we doing? Rough one today in Chestnut Hill. Final score today, Boston College 37. Syracuse 31. Orange fall to 6-3. BC ends a 3-game losing streak, wins their second straight over the Orange after last year's just unwatchable game in the Dome. This one was weird, wacky, and wild from the get-go, with the Orange digging yet another 14-point hole, digging out of it, looking like they had taken control of the game. Momentum switched again on the fumble safety out of the end zone by McCord, and then it was just wild from there until the finish line. But welcome into our postgame coverage today. Brian Higgins with you. You heard the phone number on our DWITom.com hotline. We'll have it wide open for the next hour at 315-437-7644. For ESPN 44. We'll get you some Fran Brown post-game sound as soon as it becomes available in our direction, likely as a post-game conversation with Matt Park on the Syracuse Sports Network, which will air over on TK99 in just a little of a bit. But before that, we'd like to hear from you. 315-437-7644 in a game where I'm not sure what has left me slamming my head against the wall more. Syracuse's run defense or the fact that we have another week of Tom Brenneman to deal with next week. I can't do it anymore. I can't do it anymore. No, they shouldn't have gone for 2, Tom. That's not how math works. Anyway, just got to let out a little frustration. Lots of legit, and I'll be intrigued to see if Fran is asked about this in a way that makes sense after the game. There was a lot of actual late game clock, math, whatever strategy that, realistically wasn't going to win the game for you, but it was going to give you a chance. Syracuse, once it got late, based on having one timeout remaining, based on the current clock stoppage rules, based on the 2-minute warning in college football, based on the likelihood of recovering an onside kick, though my goodness, nearly had an onside kick, that it was just absolutely something crazy that they should have been able to have a chance there. But you got to be able to work the math on that to know that you probably had to kick the field goal or at least score before the 2-minute timeout. Though we know Syracuse's kicking game, they were probably too far back. But at some point, you're putting yourself in a no-win math situation on that one. But, end up losing by 6. You had the onside kick. I don't know if I've ever seen illegal blocking called on the onside kick before. When they showed the replay, it was reasonably clear, I suppose, what they called on the play. You basically can't clear the other team out of the way as a way to pick up the onside kick. But, man, that was just it's hard to stomach going into BC, a game that you thought you should have won. I get that Syracuse was Vegas underdogs in this game. I get it. But, man, you started off slow. You turned the game. You took control of the game. You're up 21-14. BC literally can't throw the football. And then in hindsight, it turned out they probably saved for what turned out to be the game-clinching touchdown. Basically, never should have and didn't have to throw the football game. They run for 313 yards. First team to run for more than 300 on the Orange since Virginia Tech did it in that just beatdown in Blacksburg last year. This one's done in a very close football game. 392, not enough from Kyle McCord today, and just this is one that's going to sting. This is one that's going to sting. Like the Stanford game is one that it feels like it got away from you. This one's like, man, got to tackle. 313 yards. 133 of them to a Jordan McDonald, which is literally more than his 3-year college career total entering today. All right, as mentioned, want to get as many calls in as we can here today. Our DWITom.com hotline is open, 315-437-7644. We'll start off with our guy Dom down in North Carolina today. Hey, Dom, what's up?
Hey, Brian, thanks for taking my call.
Absolutely.
So my biggest issue, I didn't get to watch the game or listen to Matt on the Cuse app. It just sounds like Elijah Robinson is not making any adjustments. And we've lived dangerously and just getting killed in the trenches on both sides of the ball. And our offensive coordinator makes enough adjustments, I think, with the offensive line and in play calling that he gets away with it. But I don't see or hear anything all year on the defensive side where we're making these adjustments. And that is what's bothering me. I think that Fran is the guy to lead us forward. I think that he's going to recruit enough talent to where we're competing every year. But the downfall of any team, college, pro, or anything in football is inability to make adjustments. And I think that's what killed us today. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Dom. And Tom, I think I agree with you there. You look at the adjustments we've seen all year long. You don't like to see slow starts, but we've seen all year long. Generally, the offense has adjusted as the game goes along. Like, we're not going to look back at this game necessarily scoring 31 points and say, yeah, they lost because of their offense. Now, you certainly would have preferred not to have that safety happen, but man, you give up 313 rushing yards to a team that was seemingly, especially with Castellanos in the game, both unwilling and unable to utilize the forward pass today. And they were unwilling and unable, and smartly for them, were quite aware that it was unnecessary. Like, good job by Bill O'Brien. Like, just stop passing the ball. They threw the ball 13 times in the game. I could argue that was like 10 too many because Syracuse just could not tackle them today, be it Robichaux or McDonald. Kai Robichaux, 28 carries, $192. That's 7.1 a carry. Jordan McDonald, who had fewer than this total yardage in 3 years, 2 at UCF and this year at BC, at 133 yards today, 8.9 yards a carry. Castellanos, when he was in the game and he left, mid-third quarter with injury, his passes weren't coming anywhere near each other, save for the hilarious one where the BC one player, pass broke up one of the other players, that's probably not how you teach that. How you teach that one. But, man, it's just it's one where you look at the defense, and they were talking about it. Who is it? Max Brown? Is it Max? The color analyst today, the former USC and Pitt quarterback who was doing the color analysis today. He mentioned it repeatedly, and with good reason that he was mentioning it repeatedly. Unlike what his partner kept mentioning about the going for it for two for 78 straight minutes in the second half of the broadcast, which made me want to rip the TV off the wall. Setting that aside, when he mentioned on multiple possessions in a row that Max Brown, yes, that's his name. Did I say Max Brown? Max Brown with an E at the end of Brown. Former USC and Pitt quarterback of recent vintage was Max. He said repeatedly, why I'm counting the box. They got 6 guys in the box. Why do they only have 6 guys in the box? Why do they only got 6 guys in the box? Why do they not have 8 guys in the box? Now, we see what that can lead to, because on that 4th and 1 play, BC waited and patiently waited all game long for the exact right time to call that play action. And basically, for all intents and purposes, it didn't end the game, but it made it really, really difficult for Syracuse to win the game. Just fantastic play call. Full credit to Boston College for call and execution. That's one on the defense where you have to be aware of it, like your brain knows it. But at the same time, it's like, we got to stop a yard. If they gain a yard, we're screwed. So you're in a really, really bind there in defense. And that was, they had 10 guys in the box, 9 guys in the box. But yeah, why were there not more guys in there closer to the line of scrimmage with how just wide open some of those holes were being blown? Especially, Robichaux was just strolling up the middle. And it's tough. And Fran Brown said something. He had an answer on Monday. Somebody asked him something to the effect on what needs to be improved going forward. I counted it on Monday. I forget the exact number, but it was one answer to a question. Fran used the word tackling. It was 13 times. It might have been more. He said tackling like every other word for 4 straight sentences. You're like, wow, he's really got tackling on the brain. Well, he was right. Unfortunately, he's still right, because it didn't get any better today. In fact, especially the way BC just kept running the ball. We've had some games this year where, why did the other team stop running the ball? I don't understand why they stopped running the ball. They just keep, like Virginia Tech last week to some extent. Some of these other games in recent vintage, just run the ball more. What are you doing? BC was like, yep, let's run the ball more. And Syracuse never stopped them from running the ball more. Just a tough one. Just a tough one. All right, let's go to the General Chestnut Hill game. We know our guy Vito heads out there every other year to check out this one. Hey, Vito, tough one to see in person, I imagine.
Oh, man, it was a good game. It got good when it was 21-14. They scored 3 straight to take the lead, and it looked like they were going to – it honestly looked like Syracuse was going to take command of the game, and then the run game for Boston College just took over, man. It was unbelievable how they just kept – number 5, what's his name, Washington or something like that?
Robichaux, yep.
Yeah, Robichaux, he looked awesome out there. I mean, it wasn't really about him being awesome, though. It was about our line being bad. But I saw something interesting after I was 5 rows behind McCord in the bottom section there. Mm-hmm. And after that sack safety, he lit up on his linemen. He was not happy with them. Yelled at them for a little bit and then walked away, went down, by himself. I think he realizes, he took a risk coming to Syracuse. You're taking a risk as a really good quarterback with the protection you're going to have. And I said this on one of your shows earlier in the season, Brian, I was worried going into the Stanford game that, they're not known for their skill players like we are, but their line if they could match up with us, they would win the game, and that's exactly what happened, and that's what's going on. It's these lines are overpowering us, and our skill players can't shine because of it. Occasionally, he looked great, some of the touchdown passes and the great downfield passes, but overall they just control the line, and that's it.
Yeah, and I'd say, Vito, to that point, both lines of scrimmage, right? I mean, their offensive line, too, obviously dominated up front. You look at that line play, certainly the difference in the game. I go back to when Bill O'Brien got hired last year, transfer portal reopens, and BC's always got strong linemen. You're like, oh, maybe some of their linemen will go in the portal and Syracuse can get them. And none of them left. None of them left BC. So I'd say full credit to Bill O'Brien for hanging on to those guys they always got, because realistically, more than anything else, that's what won the ball game today.
I'll say one last thought. One of the previous callers mentioned how the defensive coordinator, there's somewhat of a lack of adjustments. And what disturbs me the most is that was a bad team. Even the fans around me for BC acknowledge that, both their quarterbacks are not good.
Right.
So you have a one-dimensional offense, and you're not able to stop that. That's not a good sign. And again, it's Fran Brown's first year, so he's got work to do. But just that one fact alone, that you're playing against a one-dimensional offense and you can't stop them. It's like put 8 in the box, shut the run down, and then nobody covered that on that fluke trick play where they got the touchdown on 4th down. They'd leave I don't know if it was a tight end that caught that. Who caught that? Was that a tight end?
Yeah, that was the tight end that was at the end of the line there that kind of leaked through on the play action. Yeah, nobody looped back with him. But, that's, I'd say, as much as that stinks, right, that's more the cost of doing business than giving up 300 some odd yards on the ground today. You would have rather tried to plug up the run a little bit.
Right, but on that play, you have to know as a defensive coordinator, it's like when you tell your players in basketball, there's no timeouts, don't call timeout. If it's 4th and 1, you always got that one stop plug, that plugs that, hole that,
yep.
Hey, someone might try to run behind the defense on a fluke, to get a quick touchdown on the 4th. You got to watch for that. That's on the coaching.
Yeah, looked like on the replay, it was, it's hard to point blame at specific players on that one, but it looked like a couple of the safeties got all twisted up amongst each other, and it's just the guy runs wide open. But yeah, nobody, there didn't seem to be, I don't know, was it planned, was it execution, but there clearly was not a clear result there of getting anybody back on the BC player.
Yeah, just one guy back, almost like a prevent for that kind of thing, but at least backpedal, be even with a guy that you see trying to get behind the defense. I couldn't believe they got that. That was the game right there. So,
yeah,
all
absolutely.
right, man.
All right, Vito.
I'm going to head out to the north end and get some cannolis. Now I'm out of here.
Okay, enjoy Mike's Pastry. There we go. There he goes, our guy Vito. Hey, at least if you're going to lose this game and go out there, that's at least a good way to spend the rest of your day, heading over to get yourself a little Italian food and a couple of cannolis for the road. You say you want to perk up a bad mood. to go, please. Yes, sir. All right, let's get back to the phones here after Syracuse's 37-31 loss to BC out in Chestnut Hill today. It is our DWITom.com post-game hotline. We'll get you some Fran Brown sound before our hour is up here today. Next on the line is our guy Steve in North Syracuse. Hey, Steve.
Yeah, it was a game that Woody Hayes would have appreciated because he always insisted that a team that runs for 300 yards is going to beat a team that passes for 300 yards, and that's kind of what happened here. On the offensive line front, typically when things went wrong, it seemed to have to do with number 57, Demetrius Witherspoon, who's 6'7" and 330, but I saw one play where he got pushed right into McCord, who had an incomplete pass because of it. And on the play that was obviously the key play of the game, the safety, it was Witherspoon's guy that got in and got to McCord on that. After that, he was hurt. And I'm wondering if maybe he was already playing hurt or something, but number 57 often seemed to be the guy that was getting up and looking at the quarterback because his man had just gotten to him. We ran for 1.6 yards per carry, and they ran for 6.1 yards per carry, the exact reverse. I got the impression that our line was getting better, and the defense as well, and this was a step back. We seem to be trying to stop a rushing attack with a three-man front, which I don't think is likely to work very often. And that allowed Boston College to control the game.
Yeah, I'd say, Steve, and it's kind of crazy, right? Because, when we talked to Elijah Robinson, I think the first time I talked to Elijah was it was late February, early March. And, you're trying to get a sense of all right, we just saw the 3-3-5 here for 3 years. What is your plan? And, really the only thing he let loose is we plan on playing 4-down linemen, which they had been doing this year. But then all Tank Wilson and Jobity and all the defensive tackles get hurt. So it feels like they're doing maybe 3 down out of just, volume of guys remaining. But man, oh man, Steve, that's the result, right? There's just not enough beef up front right now, and there's not enough reinforcements close enough to the line behind him. So something's got to give, and right now it's certainly Syracuse's run defense.
We also have had a run of opposing teams having to put in backup quarterbacks or backup running backs, and they turn out to be just as good or even better as the guys that they were replacing. I hesitate to think what we would do if we lost McCord or Allen, because our backups don't seem to be nearly as good. So we're not at the depth level that we really need to be yet. And my final comment is that I don't know how many times over the years something that I've never seen called has been called against Syracuse.
It's like every other week.
Yeah, I mean, going all the way back to the '98 Tennessee game where they called somebody for having his shirt tail out
twice.
Yeah.
The too high socks. They took the too high knee pad thing. They took 2 timeouts away. The SEC refs. That haunts me to this day.
Dino was always complaining about seeing things called for the first time, and that was the first blocking call that I've seen on an onside kick. Things always seem to happen to us that way. I don't know why.
That is a fact, Steve. I will say this: I at least that one. Today, I've never seen it before. I at least think I understand the intent of that rule. The timeout one from '98 is going to baffle me till the end of time. But yeah, man, that was one of the holy crap! They got the kick. They got a chance, and then there's a flag. What possibly happened? And
I don't remember seeing illegal man downfield being called on other teams either.
Yeah, I mean that is the peril of the RPO offense, but I just don't understand. Realistically, during these last drives, I get they are technically RPOs. They're not going to run. You're not running the ball there. You're only passing the ball. Why are the linemen down the field? What are they doing?
And you never are going to pass to the guy they call the flag on. So it's
right.
We keep getting strange calls. But until we get the lines up to snuff, I think we're going to struggle.
Yeah, that's a fact, Steve. And that's always, flipping the roster. Colorado found this out last year. That is always the toughest part of doing that. And recruiting era, transfer portal era, whatever era you want to be in, that is the hardest area to certainly beef up, quite literally, on your football team. All right, Steve, thanks as always for the call. There he goes, our guy Steve in North Syracuse. To Steve's point about depth, so, I put together, you can sort of see, I'll just wave it around in the air here on Cuse Sports Talk. I like to have a little, spotting sheet in front of me before the game so I can at least quickly know who people are, especially on the other team. We talk mostly about Syracuse here, but it's nice to know who's on the other team when there's a game going. So, you check out the other team's too deep. And now, most teams don't give away a whole lot. Their too deeps are too deep. BC had listed everybody. They have 5 running backs in their too deep. 5. Kai Robichaux, Trayshawn Ward, who didn't play today. We didn't hear anything about that for a reason. Daytrail Jones, didn't see him. Turbo Richard, great name. He was out hurt. Jordan McDonald is both listed on their too deep with the wrong number. He's listed as 25. He wears 24. He's their 5th string running back. He hadn't had a carry. What did he run for today? Hang on. 15 carries for 133 yards. He hadn't had a carry this season since the opener against Duquesne. Hadn't had a carry since the opener. He's a transfer from UCF. You add up the opener against Duquesne. You add up his 2 years at UCF. He had more yardage today than he had in his entire collegiate career into today. His only carries this year were against Duquesne at 5 for 54. 15 carries, $133, and a touchdown today. Most of that was in the first half. It's not like they even saved him for later. It's like, here's this guy. Like, what the heck? One of those days. All right, let's get our first break out of the way. We'll try to calm down. Or not. Come to Cuse Sports Talk. You're allowed to get extra fired up on Cuse Sports Talk. We're rolling there, CuseSportsTalk.com and the Twitch, Cuse Sports Talk, our YouTube page. We're live in both places. We're in the chat on both places. We're fired up in both places. Come hang out all show long there. Get on the show at 315-437-7644. It's our DWITom.com call-in hotline. Join us throughout our hour together. Postgame here today. Final score again is BC 37, Syracuse 31. The Orange fall to 6-3. BC ends their 3-game losing streak, improves to 5-4. Much more to come after this in our postgame coverage here on Cuse Sports Talk and ESPN Radio. Let's go. SMU is indeed, Jen, the only team that is undefeated in league play anymore. What's up, chat? How are we? Where's the YouTube? YouTube? What's up, YouTube? Oh, man, oh, man. I don't know if you can challenge that for it. I don't know, Frank. That call, I'd need a lot more. I need a lot more explanation of what happened on that call. I've never seen it before. I'm not entirely certain what the exact rule is. Recruiting class for next year looks great, Bebop. It's got like 31 guys, like right around 30th in the country. Looks great. Yeah, secondary tackling has been not great. Cinco really struggled tackling today, and he's normally like a good tackler. Who's SMU playing today? Is SMU playing today? SMU bye week? SMU bye week. First place SMU. Shout out the first place Mustangs. Go Craig James. Go Eric Dickerson. Duke is up 5-0 at NC State. They were up 2-0 early. Bottom of the third coming up. Miami lost 28-23. Jim Phillips' worst nightmare has occurred. Yeah, that's a class of 26 guy, I think, Dom, but they are, which is good. We'll explain that more thoroughly during the week, Zach, but yeah. We're going to do some pregame before both games start for a variety of both games. And then we're going to do some postgame after both games are over and discuss both games. Is the plan. And our pregame conversation very likely may be discussing one young man by the name of Cayenne Anthony, who will be making his college choice known the night before. But we'll be starting at 10:30 next Saturday. Cuse Sports Talk next Saturday is going to go from 10:30 till tip time at 1. We'll be live on ESPN Radio 10:30 to 11:30. We're going to have this weird half hour that like me and McAllister are just going to like vibe it out, see what happens. And then we'll go TK Tailgate from 11 or from noon to 1, talk a little football. Then the basketball game will be on ESPN on the radio. The football game will be on TK on the radio because they're all at the same time. They overlap a little. And then after both are over, it's going to be a Cuse Sports Talk only? No. Yes, Cuse Sports Talk only post-game show for everything all at once because the Crunch will be playing, I think. So, yeah, we got a whole smorgasbord of something, Zach, next weekend. Being down, as great as it is to rally from down 14-0 and 21-3, it's probably better not to be down 14-0 or 21-3. Just a thought. Pinstripe Bowl, Fenway Bowl. Where's the ACC Bowl schedule? Yeah, I'd be shocked, Ryan, if it's otherwise.
Burdick Ford, Burdick Toyota, Burdick BMW, and Burdick Lexus postgame show presented by One Group and Holbrook Heating and Air Conditioning. Call in now on the Tom and Ellie DWITom.com hotline, 315-437-7644.
All right, back out of here. Postgame, Brian Higgins with you. You heard the phone number, 315-437-7644. Well, that was a lengthy opening segment. We were just going, but we're getting you on the phones right now. Look like another call is coming in. We'll get you on shortly. We'll get a little Fran Brown sound as early as it becomes available to us. We won't leave you hanging on that before the end of our time together today. But just, man, this is a bit of a stomach puncher here, 37-31 to a Boston College team that it's just, oh, man, it just felt like you were better than. You still, I'll say this, and I know we're not all feeling so, lollipops and happy thoughts and puppy dogs and sunshine and rainbows right now. How's that for a collection of stuff? But you're 6-3. You got Cal next week. Tough game because you're traveling cross country, but just like this week, flip the coin, winnable game. You got UConn the week after that, which you should win. And then you got Miami, which tough game, not maybe a coin flip, but a winnable game. I'm not saying you win out here, but go get the next two. Now you're still sitting on 8. I know that's not as lofty as maybe as we wanted a few weeks ago, but it would still be the third best season of the century. So we'll allow ourselves a little dose of perspective before we go back to yelling about this game, because this game needs just a little bit of yelling about. Or I could just take it all out on Tom Brenneman like we're good to go. Next week, settle up, more CW. All right, let's go back to the phones, 315-437-7644 or DWITom.com postgame hotline. Zachary in the Cuse is next up. Hey, Zach, what's going on?
The penalty for the Syracuse game, they really hurt us. The offensive line didn't do much. Didn't help block.
Yeah, it was a struggle today for the O-line. You mentioned penalties. Where are the penalty numbers here? Where are the penalties hiding? Penalties. Why don't I see penalties? There they are. 10 penalties in the game for 91 yards. Yeah, that's a lot. It's too many. You can't do that. Gave up 4 sacks. You do that, one of them turns into the sack fumble, which is a safety, and stuff like that costs you football games.
And also the fumble, they also hurt. The turnovers.
Yep. Yeah, you just did too many things. You did too many things, Zach, wrong today, right, to overcome him. You fall into the 14-0 hole. And, Zach, thank you very much for the phone call today. But you fall into the 14-0 hole. You're committing penalties. And then as Steve said, man, how many, like I know we watch a lot of football. Steve's watched a lot of games, right? Like if Steve in North Syracuse is telling us, I've never seen that call before. I'm going to have to do a little research on that puppy to find out, I understand it. Like, all right, you can't really be blocking the upbacks on an onside kick before the ball is coming down. Like that's like I get the concept of the call. Like it's basically you can't run a wedge to clear it out and then run up and pick it up. I get the concept of the call, but man, so it's hard to argue. But at the same time, you're like, you real? It's impossible to recover a freaking onside kick, and Syracuse does it. And they're like, here's a penalty you never heard of before. Here's one you've never heard of before. Enjoy that. Just when you thought you might pull this game out of the deepest recesses of your butt. It's just, and then, man, Syracuse BC games, just 15-yard penalty. Barron got one on the opening drive. There was another one later. That one, like Cinco was like 98 yards out of bounds. Now he was kind of tied up, but at the same time, you gotta try something to make it look like it wasn't you. I know I think it was Robichaux, had his arm kind of hooked, but you get that one. You get a face mask later on. I mean, they add up. They keep drives going. They kill drives on offense. Most importantly, late in the game, they eat up time, they gnaw away time off the clock, and it just becomes a problem with those situations. But we'll keep it rolling here in a second on the DWITom.com post-game hotline as Syracuse falls to Boston College today by the final score of 37-31. So, man, it's just tough to. Let's give you a little Orange Insight powered by Staff Leasing. I think part of what we just talked about is Orange Insight. You want some insight? Here's what you'd want to not do to win a football game. 10 penalties for 91 yards. Insight, don't do that. Give up 4 sacks. Insight, not that. Let the other team run for 313 yards on 51 carries for 6.1 a pop, with Robichaux at 198 and McDonald at 133. Both of the backs north of 7 to carry. McDonald almost at 9. You add those 3 things together? Like, it's not a fluke Syracuse lost this game. Now, there's all these things that you're like, I can't believe that happened. But at the same time, it was not a fluke. You give up 313 yards on the ground, that's not a fluke loss. That's insight in why you lost. That's Orange Insight. Powered by Staff Leasing. Let Staff Leasing handle the heavy lifting when it comes to HR and payroll so you can concentrate on scoring big in your industry. Visit staffleasinghr.com to learn more about how they can help your business stay in the game. There's a lot of good Staff Leasing commercials during the game on the CW today. Yeah, Staff Leasing. I see you, Staff Leasing. I see you, Staff Leasing. It's just good stuff. Who do we got here? Was he ready? We're gonna make him ready, whether he's ready or not. We're gonna bring in our guy Rob in Baldwinsville right now. Hey, Rob, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Brian. Brian, don't you believe it's just basically they can't stop the run?
Yep.
Against Pitt, they got crushed. They got crushed against Stanford. Stanford manhandled them on their offensive line, manhandled us. And the third one today, we've got to get better at stopping the run. It's real quite basics. And again, drill down, they haven't wrapped and tackled. They missed tackles all over the place, Brian.
Absolutely. And it's been all season. I mean, go back to it's so long ago you forget it happens, but I was digging into during the game, seeing all right, last time this, last time that. You forget that Ohio's back ran for 200 yards in the opener, and he was their freaking backup. So this has been going literally since the start of the season, and it's not like the head coach isn't aware of it. I mean, he answered a question saying tackling like 15 times on Monday, so clearly it was a focus. At least it sounded like it would be in practice this week. But unfortunately, Rob, it's not worked as of yet, it would appear.
He is a player's coach, and he may have to get a little bit more nasty. He may have to get really nasty with a few of them because not the young ones, the ones that have been around. Where is our defensive end that we got from Texas A&M? He's quiet. Has he had a sack in the last 3 games?
Let's see. What did Diggs do today? Let's take a looky-loo at the stats here. Let's see where Fidel. 2 tackles, 1 for a loss today. So that is a pretty quiet game for Fidel. Early in the season, he certainly had some big moments, right? I mean, last week he recovered the fumble that won the game in overtime. But yeah, today was a reasonably quiet game for Diggs. Now, I don't know what that has to do with Castellanos' mobility in the first half of his role, but last quarter and a half, right, Castellanos was out of the game. It was just trying to stop the run.
He's These running backs, though, Brian, last year with Dino Babers, we had the same situation against Georgia Tech. They just run it down your throat.
Yep.
They just run it down their throat, and I mean, why can't we get another back? I believe in putting Valari back there as a fullback with Allen. Maybe I'm wrong. But I think it would work.
Yeah, I'd say that's where it's too bad you didn't have Yasin Willis, who's been out hurt, or Will Nixon, who's been out hurt, to have more running threats out there, because you started the year with three of them that could go, and now you're down to one, essentially. But, heck, we saw that from BC today. I mean, the guy that was their fifth-string running back listed on their depth chart, McDonald, ran for $133 today. So it's possible, I guess, to go further down the depth chart and pull that off, Rob.
But they reverse us. We're sitting there, and everybody can play us for the pass, just like we should have just been playing them straight up for the run.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah, I'm surprised that they did not stack the box more and more as the game went along. I mean, a little, but it wasn't like, whoa, they got a lot of guys up there. There was never a moment I'm like, wow, they've really crammed it in tight to the line. That was one you're like, okay, now they're selling out to stop the run and forcing BC to do something else. That never really popped to me at any point today. Save for, of course, the fourth down play that ends up being the touchdown.
Right, we got to wash it away.
That's a fact.
That safety was a major turning point in the game. If that safety doesn't happen, I think it makes a little bit of a difference with momentum.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Just wash it away. We should have a win against Connecticut. Cal's going to be tough on the road. And, I mean, Miami, who knows what they're going to be now they got a loss.
Mm-hmm.
They've been squeaking out wins. You know that, Brian. They haven't been burning it up. I mean, they've got talent, and it's at the Dome. We should be full, 42,000 or whatever we sit in there now. And I mean louder than it's been all season when you play Miami. And it should be. I mean, it should be national ACC, but probably national TV if we could win out till we play them. I think you could get it on national TV because we get great ratings.
Yeah.
Syracuse gets good ratings.
Yeah, I mean, that's the hope. Well, we'll see. Miami's got to play their part, too. They better not start leaking oil here in the next few weeks, but we'll see how it goes.
And Georgia Tech, when we beat Georgia Tech, now that makes us look even better.
Yeah.
Now that they beat Miami.
Yeah.
So that Stanford loss was a big stinger. That's a home game. Those other two games are on the road. I just, we woulda, coulda, shoulda. I want at least 8 wins out of this before it's over with.
Yeah, that's the hope, Rob. And thank you, Rob, for the call, because I think you still get to 8 here. You still, regardless of how we feel right now, or certainly about the Stanford game, if you still get to 8 out of this season, you'll look back at those and be like, man. But I think you're still going to look at this season and be like, that was a very successful first year for a first-year head coach. But got to get there. All right, let's get a break in. Thanks to Rob for the call there. You can be next at 315-437-7644. It's our DWITom.com postgame hotline. We'll get you some Fran Brown sound before we're all said and through here today. Much more to come after this on Cuse Sports Talk and ESPN Radio. Yeah. Don't ackle. Tackle. Jordan for slogan writer. Oh, man. Yeah, Brian Bixby, exactly. Even the CW crew needed to do the stack the box. No, Ben, I'd say if you go win at Cal next week, and there's no reason you can't, and go beat UConn, say you do that, lose to Miami, and go to a whatever kind of mid-level bowl game you get. That's a nice season. Yeah, Jen, the onesie. I mean, maybe. But you look at what Rob just said. It was 14-0. You turn it around. You're up 21-14. The fumble happens. They come down and score a touchdown. That 9-point swing, it happened in 63 seconds. Boom. From Syracuse touchdown to go up to being down by 9 or down by 2, 63 seconds. And heck, their next touchdown, you went from up 7 Yeah, so that was 63 seconds, and then their next drive, you gave up a touchdown, you're down by 9. Oh, man. Yeah, Elijah, we need a little adjustments, like some in-game adjustments from Elijah, because with Nixon, we've seen it, right? Like, I could do without the slow starts, but the run game was struggling today. Kyle McCord threw for 392 yards today, and Syracuse scored 31 points. And the offensive line wasn't good. You put up 31 on the road and nearly threw for 400 on a bad blocking day. This was on the defense. I'm going to look at... I could see the timing on this play-by-play of when they would have had to kick the field goal on the last drive to kick off before the 2-minute warning. The problem is, here's the problem. I'm looking at it. They didn't get down to the 12 until I think the 2-minute warning. Yeah, they were still at the 32. So they would have had to kick a 49-yarder. Ugh. All right, so it's hard to get on Fran for that because that's a really low percentage look with this group. You just needed to, like that drive started sluggishly. You needed to score before the 2-minute warning. You had the penalty. It was the illegal receiver downfield that killed you on that drive. You had a chance to do at least some analytics, get the ball back, kick off before the 2-minute warning with a timeout, force a 3-and-out, get the ball back with a minute left. Yeah, that illegal man downfield killed you. That was really the end of the game. We will not have Fran's presser, likely, Matt. We'll get his conversation with Matt Park at some point here. We'll get you something. Harder to get the presser on the road game since we're not, there. We'll try to get you some Fran. Well, line was not good. Weatherspoon had a rough day. You footing that bill, LA Orange? Yeah, was this Doug Marrone? Was this a Doug Marrone game plan? Oh, it's a very Marrone game plan, isn't it?
Burdick Toyota, Burdick BMW, and Burdick Lexus postgame show presented by One Group and Holbrook Heating and Air Conditioning. Call in now on the Tom and Ellie DWITom.com hotline, 315-437-7644.
All right, the hotline is open. Lots of people utilizing the phone number post-game here today. 315-437-7644 is the final score after that one as Syracuse falls to Boston College on the road. 37-31. What did I just say? 37-31. The phone number is 315-437-7644. The score of the game is 37-31. Talking is hard sometimes. Oh, it's a hard world out here. All right. We'll get you some Fran Brown when it becomes available to us from out in Chestnut Hill. And, yeah, man, it's deflating. It's deflating is what it is, a loss like this. It's not like the Stanford thing in hindsight is like, man, they stink. But it was the best game. I mean, that's the best Stanford played all year. And one play, you're looking at it, you're like, Today is not that. Today is not a one play. Like the Stanford game, I look back at one play, you stop a 4th and 9, you win the game. I don't think about anything else. 4th and 9, their best player, you win the game. Today, it's not that. Today is as opposite that as possible. Today was not a one-play game. There was a lot of one plays to look at. The sack, fumble, safety being, that was the play that completely swung the game the other way. But What matters more, that one play or 313 yards on the ground? Like Stanford, I can look back, I can point at that play. Pittsburgh, you can point at 8 bajillion plays. I mean, you got rocked. You got your socks knocked off in that game. Today, you could not stop the run. You could not slow the run. It didn't matter. Massive holes, no tackling. I'd love to see a yard after contact stat for a game like this. I'd love to see a yard after contact stat for a game like this because, man, it must have been substantial for Boston College on this one. I'd say both their yards before contact and their yards after contact stat had to be substantial before this one. They were 5 yards down the field, then they maybe got touched, then they were 10 yards further than that. It felt like more often than not today. Like you don't stop the run, you commit penalties, and you lose the turnover battle. I guess technically the turnover battle was even. Syracuse did have the one interception, though, did not take advantage of it for points. But Syracuse, I'll say this. Somehow, how weird is this? Turnovers were 1-1. Points off turnovers were 9-0. Turnovers 1-1. Points off turnovers 9-0. That's, talk about some wacky math. This game was weird, man. This game was weird. All right, let's get back to our DWITom.com hotline. Who do we got next? We got Mike in the Cuse next. Hey, Mike.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you thought on that Quentin Allen fumble in the first half, whether or not that should have been challenged. It looked like his knee might have been down, but I didn't see any discussion about that.
My look on the replays, he wasn't down, was my quick reaction there. Mike, I didn't think he was. So, okay. Maybe it's worth forcing them to look at it. In theory, on a turnover, they're looking at it anyway. To some extent,
it kind of changed the momentum of the game, I thought.
Oh, absolutely, it did. I'd say that was one where, I don't know. So,
timeout the first half isn't the end of the world. But.
Yeah, no, exactly. Now, do you throw a Hail Mary? My view though on the quick replay they showed, I guess. Yeah, I guess McCord's fumble out of the end zone technically wasn't a turnover. Syracuse did have 2 turnovers today, sort of. My initial thought is that his knee wasn't quite down and the ball was moving.
About McCord too, seems like he's pressured on almost every pass, and I know that's a line problem. Mm-hmm. But what if he started out by taking one more step back? Seems like he's up closer to the line in the pocket than sometimes I see other quarterbacks.
I don't know. I don't think. I think at that point now you're asking. Your line's already under pressure. If your quarterback is now literally standing in a different place, now you're putting a center who's already under strain to have to snap the ball to a different spot, which seems like that might be inviting more disaster than you're already prepared to deal with at that point from the offensive line.
Mm-hmm. All right, thanks.
All right, Mike, thank you for the call. Yeah, I'd say I forgot about the LeQuint. So I guess the McCord fumble out of the end zone technically was not a turnover. So that's kind of wild. So yeah, Syracuse did have. I'm going to call that a turnover. I'm going to say turnovers were 2-1 and points off turnovers were 16-0. So yeah, you want to look at the difference in the game. Let's go with that. It's just when the ball goes to the other team and they score. That was the LeQuint fumble. Here's what's wild. In LeQuint Allen's career, he's a junior. That was LeQuint's first fumble of his career. Not his first lost fumble. That is the first time the ball has left LeQuint Allen's arms and landed on the ground while running the football or catching the football in his collegiate career. And go figure it happens like that. And immediately leads, if I can read my own writing, in a minute and 20 seconds to a touchdown. So that fumble led in a minute and 20 seconds to a touchdown. McCord's fumble led in 63 seconds? 55 seconds. McCord's fumble in 55 seconds led to 9 points because of the safety, and then BC went down the field and immediately scored the touchdown. Are you kidding me? Are you absolutely kidding me? How fast it happened. How fast it happened here today. It's just mind-boggling how fast that stuff went down here today. Like, just when you thought late first half, early second half, the Orange got a grip on it. Arande with that. I mean, that Arande, this has gotten lost in the game. That Arande touchdown catch, every time they showed it, it was more stupefying that he caught the ball. He caught it like backhanded, underhanded, one-handed, while the other guy was holding his left hand. I don't know how that happened. Then LeQuint got the 2 touchdowns. You're up 21-14. You're halfway into the third quarter. BC has not scored in that point in 3 drives. They've gone punt, interception, punt. It feels like, I don't want to say the game is over. You're only got a touchdown, but you've got momentum. They make the quarterback change, bring in Grayson James, who literally, I mean, the next drive, he didn't throw the ball. The next drive was Robichaux, personal foul, Robichaux, touchdown. Now it's 21-21. Like it was a play or two later, McCord has that fumble out of the end zone for a safety, and then just a few plays after that, suddenly you're down 30-21. It turned shockingly fast. Shockingly fast. At that stage in the second half. It's hard to comprehend how fast it turned there, because it felt like, I get you were only up a score, but at 21-14, it felt as close to having the game in control as one could for it being a one-score game, but it felt like you had figured out how the ball game was going at that point. And boy, in a rapid fashion, in, I mean, real time, less than 10 minutes, everything changed. Everything changed. And then here we are. Real time, less than 10 minutes. Whole game got flipped on its head. And Syracuse is 6-3. Back-to-back wins in November. All those stats I gave you before the game. I worked so hard. I researched. I looked up. I counted. Crumple them up. Delete. Goodbye. Still have a chance for a good November. 3 games left. At Cal next week. Home for UConn. Home for Miami. Oh, there is cursing in the ACC offices in Charlotte today. Jim Phillips' only hope in Miami has lost the football game. Clemson last week, Miami this week. SMU, go Mustangs, carrying the torch for the Atlantic Coast Conference. First place, all by their lonesome. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, our final segment, we'll work on getting you some Fran Brown. We'll get some more calls in if you'd like at 315-437-7644. We'll turn the page to the week ahead with improving the team from Wadham's Enterprises, hence stop the run. And we'll lay out our plan for the week. There's a lot going on this week. It may take like 15 minutes to walk it all through. But there's Basketball Tuesday. There's a doubleheader, a home road doubleheader. You don't know if we get a home road doubleheader. We got a home road doubleheader next Saturday. We'll detail you on those plans so you can properly make yours for next week as well. DWITom.com hotline remains open when we come back at 315-437-7644. That, hopefully some Fran, your calls, wrap up, look ahead, and on to the rest of the weekend after this on Cuse Sports Talk and ESPN Radio. I feel you there, John Andrew. What's up in the YouTube? What's happening in the YouTube? Yeah, first fumble ever, Ben Richardson. That's wild. Wild. Yeah, how BC didn't pick that up for a touchdown, Frank, is kind of wild. Yeah, but Wax is no longer hurt, Forte. He came back in the game. How does the ACC get 2 teams in the college football playoff now? Miami's got to win out. I mean, you're in a tough spot because at this point you have no way of doing it. There is no way for the ACC to have 2 teams with 1 loss or fewer. It's impossible. Because either SMU will lose its second game in the conference title game or Miami will. That's best case at this point. So, is it possible? Yeah, but it's extremely unlikely at this point. Yeah. What are the chances McCord plays in a bowl game at 8-4? I don't know, Dan. You know, I could see him being the rare case that does in this day and age because of his vibe with Fran and the whole thing. I could also see Fran telling him, hey, man, you're getting ready for the NFL. We want to look to the future in the bowl game. Like, you did your job. Go get them. And everyone being cool with it. I could see it playing out either way. I don't have a great sense of it. I could have a sense of Kyle being kind of like Dungy was. I mean, it's a little different since he's probably going to get drafted, but like wanting to leave a last like mark on college football. But man, a lot's changed in the last 6 years. I'm not auto ruling it out, Matt. Yeah, I don't know, Dan. That's what I'm saying. It would be a very intriguing choice. I could read that one. Like, a lot of times you see the opt-out and you're like, all right. This one I could read it from a lot of different angles. Like Kyle, Fran and Kyle have such a great relationship. Kyle wants to give Fran one more solid and go out with ride out strong with one more win. Set the table for the Fran Brown era. Like, I could write that story. I could also write the story of Kyle, man, you did it. You set the table for the Fran Brown era. Thank you so much for the Ohio State quarterback coming to freaking Syracuse. Go out and be the best NFL player you can. Love you forever. Like, I can tell either story very easily. Yeah, we're just going to run the ball. McCord will be like, sure you are. They're still RPOs, right? I'm slinging it. James Bean, I haven't a damn clue. At the moment, I would lean someone in the portal, but I haven't a damn clue. Yeah, that opener next year is frightening. Could you imagine if they had McCord coming back? Like, we were talking about, McAllister and I were talking about that this morning. If they had McCord coming back next year and, like, Tennessee's got a Malieva, they're going to be probably, like, preseason top 5, top 10, whatever next year. Games in Atlanta. Like, there'll be so many Tennessee people there. If Syracuse had McCord back, like, we'd be going to that big game and be like, oh, yeah, great. You got him. We got McCord. Now it's like, we got, So, yeah.
Holbrook Heating and Air Conditioning. Call in now on the Tom and Ellie DWITom.com hotline, 315-437-7644.
All right, back at it. Last little bit here on the show. Still time for a call or two if you'd like. You heard the number. Our DWITom.com hotline, 315-437-7644 for ESPN 44. It's been very active here this postgame show. We've been hitting them calls here on this postgame show on a Saturday afternoon. We like that. We hope to get you a little Fran Brown before too long. It's always a little completely out of our hands for these road games when and if we can get our hands on some Fran. So we'll do our best on that here in the next little bit before we are done with you today on this Saturday. But before that, let's do a little improving the team from Wadham's Enterprises. Well, it's pretty simple. What Syracuse needs to do to improve the team before next week, well, I'll put it this way. It's pretty simple to identify. Let's go with that. It is simple for me to identify what Syracuse needs to do to improve the team before next week. I don't know how simple it is. Syracuse needs to improve their rushing defense because they gave up more than 300 yards on the ground today. It is too many. I don't really know what else you shore up the offensive line. I could see Weatherspoon struggle today. Do you make the move to Dave Willaba? Do you make the flippity flop at left tackle? it's always hard to tell grading offensive line, watching on TV, because you see a guy get beat. Is it him? Is it somebody else? It seems Woolaba's doing better than Weatherspoon, but again, it's hard to tell. Cal's rushing game next week. Jaden Knott was supposed to be their star. He's been kind of banged up all year. Cal won at Wake Forest last night, slinging it. Fernando Mendoza threw for nearly 400 yards. But, if I'm Cal, just scripted first 15 plays. Run. Make him stop it. Be nice to get some penalties under control. It'll be nice to get a little blocking. But if you want some Wadham's Enterprises improving the team for next week, it's the run defense. It is tackling, as Fran Brown said last Monday. I'm sure he'll talk about now. I'm sure he'll talk about him again this Monday, which you can catch live during Orange Nation right around 1 o'clock on the radio and on Cuse Sports Talk. Run defense. Improving the team, brought to you by Wadham's Enterprises. They're improving their team with home daily CDLA driving positions available for experienced drivers. They also offer CDLA, that's a lot of letters, training at no cost with a job waiting upon completion. That's nice. Call recruiting today at 800-334-1314. That's 800-334-1314 for more information. All right now, let's check out a little Fran Brown postgame, as just heard moments ago over on TK99 from the Syracuse Sports Network. Here's Fran's postgame conversation with Matt Park.
All right, Coach, we'll give you the first word here. It's a tough loss at Boston College. What's top of mind for you at the moment?
We just we got to play better. Didn't put them in good situations. Players weren't in the best situations throughout the game. I felt like it came out flat, possibly because of myself. So I got to continue to get all that stuff better.
Is that a recurring thing at all, coming out flat, and how do you address it?
I just got to have different ways in practice, starting to practice off the right way, and having guys have the right energy throughout it, being able to, stop the run better. I got to make sure that we're tackling more and all those things. I got to just focus on a little more.
Yeah, what can you do differently there? The run game obviously proved to be difficult.
I don't know. Just have to be able to fit the runs right. Got out-coached, actually. Coach O'Brien just out-coached my ass. That's what happened.
Do the three down fronts, is that harder, easier? What are the trade-offs playing on three down front against a team that's running the ball?
Front is something that our guys like to do. Our defensive staff talks about it, go through it. Felt as though the three down front would be the best thing, so that's what we went with. Felt good about it, so that's what happened.
Specifically, that fourth down play action touchdown to the tight end, that really felt like a blow. Can you take us through your perspective on what happened?
Just a young kid playing, getting an opportunity to be in and not keeping his eyes on his job. So totally myself. We haven't called that in a while, and I just told the coach that we should call that, and our defensive coordinator actually wanted to go with something else, and he ended up going with that. So that's how it happened.
Yeah, that is a bummer. The right sides today on offense, you did have your 200-yard receivers. You talked to us at halftime. Get the ball to OG. He made a remarkable one-handed touchdown catch that looked like a Sunday catch. What are you feeling there about how you move forward?
We're going to keep fighting. We got a really good quarterback, good offense, good leaders on defensive side of the ball. So we got to keep fighting, and I guess this is a part of building the program. It's the beginning stages of it. So I just got to keep fighting, and I got to show them how to be able to finish guys off when we're up.
Yeah, you knew all along this was going to be, regardless of the outcome of this game, this was going to be a difficult stretch playing at BC and at Berkeley in back-to-back weeks, right? So this, really I know you've been thinking about that.
Has nothing to do with Berkeley. This is all about BC. Yeah. So I'll start thinking about Berkeley tomorrow, but right now it's just focus on Boston College. And Coach O'Brien and his staff, they dominated today, so I got to do a better job of preparing our organization to be ready to go out and compete in games like this.
All right, well, that's the accountability you're talking about, Coach. We thank you for your candor. Safe travels and best of luck, okay?
Appreciate it. Be safe.
All right, it's a little Fran Brown with Matt Park after the game, as heard over on TK99 on the Syracuse Sports Network. A broadcast of the game, our Fran postgame words, always presented by William Attar. Hurt in a car, call William Attar at 444-4444. Fran never afraid of some accountability. I think that's some amazing behind the scenes there on the essentially game-sealing touchdown that Fran overruled the call by Elijah Robinson. On my eyes, I thought it might have been Jaden Gould that got spun around on the coverage. I don't quite. He was the player I saw over there. There was other guys. I'm not quite sure who was supposed to be where doing what. But man, it's one that you're like, you make that stop, it's a different ball game. It's a different ball game for sure. All right, one last bit of sound before we let you go. Back to the locker room. Back to Matt in Boston College. Here is Matt with Kyle McCord.
All right, with Kyle McCord on his way to the post-game press conference. And Kyle, tough one today. What's kind of your first reaction?
Yeah, I mean, we just left too many points, I think, on the field on the offensive side of the ball. I don't think we played complimentary football like we've been showing. And I mean, they made some plays. I mean, they're a good team. They played hard, but I think, we just didn't execute well enough.
The safety, obviously, is probably the number one play you'd love to have back. Take us through it there if you can.
Yeah, I mean, 1st and 10. It looked right, and they got a little pressure left. And I mean, worst comes to worst, just have to do it better of, not fumbling, just taking a sack. I mean, obviously not an ideal situation, but 2nd and 15 is, better than giving up 2 points.
Your confidence still has to be high. The numbers are there. You put it on. Meeks, Gadsden, both over 100 yards today. So you must find that when you are down, you still feel like you have that capability because you almost did it again.
Yeah, I mean, I think, especially with the offense that we have, the weapons that I have, we're never out of it. So I think the biggest thing that, I told him on those last few drives was just keep swinging. And, I'm happy the way that, we on both sides of the ball, I don't feel like we quit at all. But like I said earlier, I think we just need to execute better, especially early on.
All right, good stuff. Another chance next week. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Kyle McCord quickly there with Matt after the game. We'll be much more thorough with Kyle this upcoming Tuesday. Join us right here on CuseSportsTalk.com, on the Twitch, on the YouTube. 11 o'clock, Tuesday a.m. Get in the chat. Your questions for Kyle as we get ready for him to head back to the West Coast and to take on Cal next week. All right, that's going to bring the reps on things today. Just a quick outline of the week to come. Yes, many of you may have a little holiday, a little Veterans Day. Thank you to all our veterans out there. On Monday, we'll be rocking along as per normal at noon. Orange Nation here at noon. Midway through Orange Nation, 1 o'clock, Fran Brown press conference. 2 o'clock, Newhouse afternoon. 3 o'clock, Cody Mack. 4 o'clock, you got me. I'll have my weekly conversation with Adam Terry. Mike McAllister, weekly conversation with the guys. Orange Nation to start the show off around about 12:30 on Monday. Tuesday, we got the Kyle McCord show at 11. Tuesday night, full Cuse game day. Cuse basketball back in action. Game 2 of the season against Colgate. Pre-game show after my show at 6. I'll have post-game for you as well. Radio and Cuse Sports Talk. There will be a test on this later. And I'll just fly through this now. We're going to remind you about 8 million times over the course of the next 7 days. Next Saturday, doubleheader. Basketball, Youngstown State at 1 in the Dome. Football, Cal 3 in California. 10:30 on ESPN Radio. We'll be with you for an hour of basketball pregame, in which I imagine a young fellow named Cyan Anthony will be discussed at length. Just a hunch. He's announcing his commitment the night before. That'll lead in on ESPN Radio to Tim Leonard and the basketball broadcast from the Dome. We're going to stay live on Cuse Sports Talk. Me and McAllister are going to chop it up. Maybe we'll talk about Cyan Anthony. I don't know. Just a hunch. And then we'll lead into our TK Tailgate Hour talking football from 12 to 1 over on TK. Still live on Cuse Sports Talk. You'll watch the game. You'll listen to the game basketball at 1. Same deal football at 3. When all of the games are over on Saturday, we're back here on Cuse Sports Talk. We're going to do just a post-game palooza of all the games. We'll hear from Red and Fran and basketball, yell about football, and I don't know what we'll do. But we're gonna have a day next Saturday, people. So that is a full week of notice. Prepare yourself accordingly. With that, tough one today for the Orange. 37-31. Boston College takes it. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Enjoy your evening. Enjoy your weekend. We'll talk again on Monday.